Kristy Danford has been involved with the criminal justice system for most of her life. Now, she's the project director for the Charleston County Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I sit down with her one-on-one. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Kristy!
Hi, Quintin.
It's so good to see you.
It's wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for coming out to visit our CJCC and our beautiful offices.
Yes, indeed. And speaking of which, the Charleston County Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. Tell me, what are you guys coordinating these days?
So we are a group of it's really kind of an exhaustive effort with, this council includes the chairman is Assistant Sheriff Mitch Lucas.
Right.
Our co-vice chairs are Deb Laylock and Chandra Brown. They each run the Charleston Center and the Charleston Dorchester Mental Health Center. And then the council itself includes all the local law enforcement of the large municipalities. So the chiefs of police from Mount Pleasant, North Charleston, Charleston, we've got the clerk of court, the solicitor, the circuit defender, the administrators of the municipal courts, our judges at all levels. It's a large collaboration of basically anyone who's running an area of the criminal justice system here in Charleston County has come together to say, as a system, we know everybody's got a job to do, and every decision that people make every day really matters. But as a system, how does it ultimately sort of roll up into how justice is served, and how is public safety and community well-being benefit from how well our system operates? And that's really what the CJCC is all about. It's looking at the data, it's using it to guide what's happening, and it's being able to really understand how can we keep being respectful of each other's roles, but how can we use those resources to best benefit community safety and community well-being for the folks in Charleston County.
Talk about mental health. Obviously, that's a hot topic right now. What is the state of mental health in your mind?
Well, Charleston is very fortunate. It's a very collaborative community. We are lucky to have the only crisis stabilization center in the state that recently just opened up. And that's a large collaboration with mental health, with the local hospitals, obviously Charleston Dorchester Mental Health that runs it. It's in the Charleston Center, the CJCC, the sheriffs there. It's a whole collaboration of funders and opportunities because it's such an integral part of our system. And whether you're talking about public safety, you're talking about public health, mental illness is something that really goes through both systems. And we'll see certain people that will repeatedly churn through our emergency departments, through our jails, through our criminal justice system. And having a proactive approach where all the parties, they're not just working in their individual areas, they're coming together saying, we're touching these same people, how can we do a better job to help make sure they get a path to treatment when they need it, and they don't escalate and end up in the criminal justice system where they can then maybe not get the treatment that they need or as much of what they need.
And you talk about a couple of things, data, public safety. I want to go to most of your goals for this particular council, and it reads like this: increase the effectiveness and efficiency of the entire criminal justice system. So what is your definition of effectiveness, and what is your definition of efficiency, that is, when you think of the criminal justice system?
So to be able to do that requires really knowing the data, knowing what's happening. So we did an exhaustive study to say, okay, and this was on calendar year 2014 data, we have 12 different data systems in Charleston County's criminal justice system alone. And none of those systems really talk to one another. And there's not a consistent, unique identifier that's going to follow somebody all the way through. So to ask the question of how effective are you, you first have to be able to understand the data and what we can learn from it. So the initial effort, we had some assistance from the Justice Management Institute, and it was exhaustive. I don't want to go back to that time because it was really exhausting.
I bet.
But it helped us to understand. We had 26,000 bookings at our jail, 20,000 different people. And the overwhelming majority of those bookings were low-level nonviolent crimes. We also, of course, want to make sure that we're using whatever resources in our power to make sure that people that are a threat to public safety are the ones that we put in jail and that we keep in jail. It's a public safety standpoint, first and foremost, more than anything else. And also trying to make sure that we don't create unintended consequences for somebody who's low risk. There's a big difference between somebody who is posing a threat to public safety and somebody, who got caught with marijuana once in their life. There's a big difference there, and the question is, how does our criminal justice system handle it so that we can reduce the recidivism rate when possible for the violent, whether it's going to SCDC, serving time, carrying out the punishment, but doing it in an effective way. And with this person who's a low-risk person who's got, maybe some possession of marijuana, that their life doesn't go into a tailspin because of it. That they can be held accountable, they can pay their debt to society, but that they can get on about their life and not be destabilized and sort of caught in this never-ending spiral of getting involved in the criminal justice system.
Jump to the last question that I had for you, but it's going to be part of my third question. And it says this: lockup has gotten a lot less crowded in Charleston, South Carolina. Over the past 2 years, the number of admissions at the county jail has dropped 30%, in turn bringing the daily prison population down by 10%. That was the beginning of the article written for governing.com. 30% tells you what, Kristy?
Well, we got to keep in context of where we are, right? So that was started in 2014. We had some significant events over 2015 and 2016.
Right.
So everything shifted everywhere. Charleston especially was hit with some very trying times.
Right.
So part of that is that effort. It's also rethinking how we use jail. One of the things that we worked on, particularly with law enforcement, was saying, what options what is it? And they'll say, if we take somebody off the street who's protecting the streets and we tell them to drive all the way to the jail to drop somebody off who's maybe charged with open container, what does that do to the rest of the law enforcement officers in the community where that officer is no longer there?
Right.
You can still issue a ticket, you can still be held accountable, but the question is, do we really want to take that officer off the street to bring somebody to the jail? And just rethinking that to saying what's in the best interest of public safety. It's a paradigm shift in thinking. Is jail the be-all, end-all only solution, or are there other ways we can handle it that's going to be better for public safety and better for our community? So it's a delicate decision, and the officer, of course, needs the discretion. But it's a rethinking of, as a community, how do we want to use our jail, and as a community, what kind of return on the investment are we getting? Are we any safer? Are we any better off? What's working? What's not working? And how do we adapt whenever we need to, when the evidence comes forward and we use the data to help guide them, not only what the data is saying quantitatively, but also what is the community saying? What are the officers saying? What are the people involved, the victims, the defendants, the offenders, their families? Everybody's touched by it in some way. So how do we do the best job we can as a system to help really advance what it is that our community, how the community wants to use our jail?
You talked about 2015. Obviously, we dealt with the Walter Scott shooting. And then 2 months later, we dealt with the tragedy of Bobby Emanuel. One of your goals, you said, was this: examine and address issues of disproportionate and or disparate impact on communities of color and those of local socioeconomic status. What are the issues affecting those communities right now in your mind?
So we have been able to analyze disproportionality. And what that is just the relative differences between a certain group of the population at large and their representation in the criminal justice system. Our data, now that we have our central database, and the things that was really, really grueling and hard to go through before, it's now something we have capacity to do and do it a lot easier than we did before. It's still a challenge, but we're getting there. But we can say, just by looking at the jail, when those bookings came down, we also saw a decrease in disproportionality. So initially it was around 3 African Americans to 1 white individual being booked into the jail, relative to the Charleston general population. In 2016, we saw that number come down, I think it was either 28 or 32%. But the question is not just a matter of disproportionality, because all that really tells us is that there's a disproportionate group here versus here. The disparity, which everybody uses the term regularly, really is truly trying to look beyond disproportionality to control for like circumstances. So it's sort of an apples to apples, oranges to oranges. So all things being equal, so 2 similarly situated people, and the only thing different about them is perhaps the color of their skin, then that would be disparity. And that's a level of analysis that we haven't been able to do yet, but it's something that we're working towards by having more variables. Some of the strategies that we're implementing are going to be able to help us control for different factors in the data to help really go beyond that. And then obviously, if it's found, act accordingly, quickly as well.
And obviously, there's another goal that you guys have, and this is it: maintain and enhance public safety. How confident are you that the system is just and fair to those people out there?
Well, I think our folks in our criminal justice system work every day to do that. I think there's and the other beauty of the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council is that the justice system really truly does represent the 3 branches of government, and they exist for a reason. And that's our ability to sort of take the law, to enforce the law, to interpret the law, and having all of the parties at the table, you need to have that check and balance system to make sure it's working well, and there's a reason Lady Justice has a blindfold, and really let the court, push it through that way. And I think that's, as long as we continue to have that and we hold that up first and foremost, then I think we're going to have a safe, just system. But we have to always work at it. It's never, if it was easy, we would have solved these issues a long time ago.
Sure.
It's a marathon. It's certainly nothing that's going to be fixed with a sprint. Yes.
As we sit here right now, what other goals does the council have in their mind to help with public safety and help with criminal justice?
Well, I think the beauty of the council is they come together. They're strong leaders who come together and look at the data to help guide the process. And they're all going to have their different, unique perspectives. We've got 6 strategies we're working on now that are pretty much, they're more than a full-time job, right? So one of them is law enforcement in the local municipalities being able to look at some of the offenses where we had high rates of disproportionality, and some of these lower level offenses that were more discretionary, where an officer wants to be able to use their discretion with the tool to help support and guide that, to decide whether or not to use jail for things like open container or civil possession of marijuana. These aren't serious, violent, dangerous offenses. These are low-level, more discretionary misdemeanor charges. And then also giving that officers that real-time alternative tool. So they can go to the Crisis Stabilization Center. They can call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to get a clinician who's going to help to triage the situation and apply some of the services that we're fortunate to have in Charleston, whether it's mobile crisis, the Crisis Stabilization Center, a homeless shelter, whatever that particular incident may necessitate at that time for that particular individual. Reminding people to get to court, not forgetting their court date. Giving bond-setting judges who make probably one of the most critical decisions in our justice system every day. They have 24 hours from an arrest to decide, whether or not this person is a risk of flight or a risk of safety to the community. They have to weigh whatever's brought for them, what the victim's saying, what the state's saying, what the defense is saying. There's a whole lot that goes out in that, and it happens really quickly. So we want to give them a risk assessment tool that's good for public safety, because it helps give that judge more and better information in that short span of time to look at those 2 factors, risk of flight and risk of public safety, being a threat to public safety.
We're actually sitting here right next door to the Sheriff Al Kennedy Detention Center, and there was an interesting article on safetyandjusticechallenge.org. It says this: building a bigger jail won't fix your criminal justice system. Just ask Charleston. So if you could rewrite that headline, what would you add to that?
Improving the criminal justice system, it takes a whole, I can't add a headline. I'm really lousy at headlines, right?
No worries.
I'm better at writing the narrative inside the story, but not the headline. It's a multifaceted, complex system. And we have to bring our leaders together. We have to look at our data. We have to hear what our community's saying. And we have to move forward together. And it's not just a Band-Aid, it's not a Band-Aid. It's not just throw this at it or throw that at it and miraculously everything's going to be better. We have to all work together in a concerted way to help make that happen. And building a bigger jail is one solution that folks often go to. Another is, making sure the people that are there are the people that really need to be there, and doing the best that we can to keep people from becoming the people that really need to be there. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, perfectly. And I want to go back to really law enforcement. Obviously, as you know, Greg Mullen stepped down yesterday as police chief for Charleston. When you think of Greg Mullen, what sticks out to you?
Strong leadership and an ability to look at both sides. I think illumination was and still is a powerful tool for community and police relations, and his leadership in that really sticks out, because it's not just saying this side is right or this side is right. It's really coming together to say how do we work together to acknowledge both sides and bring the power of and really together. And that's something that I really commend about his leadership, as well as his ability to step forward and look at the data and help to sort of guide that or demand higher levels of analysis when they were needed.
Kristy Danford, obviously you wear a lot of hats. You have a lot of experience in criminal justice and whatnot. But when you take off that criminal justice hat, who is Kristy Danford?
I'm obviously very passionate about providing public safety and community well-being. in a cost-effective means. But I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter. I'm just somebody who really tries to contribute in a positive way in whatever way I can, and I like to joke and laugh and be a little silly every now and again.
That makes life much better.
Yes, it does. It certainly does.
That's so good to hear. Well, Kristy Danford, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this.
Thank you so much.
Anytime. Anytime.